two chapters today, and that would be the Elder Wand and the Prince's Tale. I don't want to do this set of chapters because people are hard. And I think that in a lot of ways Voldemort is underestimating that. He sees people as very simple and sort of beneath his notice a lot of times. Because he, in a lot of ways, does recognize that Harry will come to him. But he only recognizes that in sort of one dimension, which is Harry's got this hero complex. And if you probe him enough in response to that, you can make him do what you want, which is exactly what he does when he does the announcement thing that says, "Your friends have fought and died for you." Never mind that, Voldemort's actually done the exact same thing, in which he has not joined the battle at all. He's let his sort of underlings and Death Eaters do that. But across this set of chapters, we get Voldemort's face-off with Snape, and then sort of Harry's face-off with Snape's memories. And you sort of want to give all these people the benefit of the doubt, but then every now and then I'm just like, why? Because it's sort of like like you're just watching everything go poorly. Like we've found out Lavender Brown is now dead, and Hagrid's gone off with the spiders, and who knows what's happened with him, and Fred of course is dead, and Harry's just like, when the Dementors show up, he's sort of like, I can't do this. And it takes the other kids coming in, and Luna in this moment, I could kiss Luna in this moment, where she just comes in sort of like, it's okay, come on, we can do this. Like, look at us, we can do this. And it just makes me want to cry, because that, for me, is one of the most heartwarming moments in this entire just battle, an all-out war, is Luna saying to Harry, basically, look at us. Like, we're still here and we're still fighting. We will take care of you. And you'll take care of us. We know that. So look at us. And just like, because that's what always means for me. We have, within this set of chapters, one of the quintessential words, if not exchanges, of the entire series, which is Dumbledore looking at Snape and saying, "After all this time," and Snape's only response is, "Always." And I have to use that for the title down here because always has become, again, like I said, the quintessential word for the Harry Potter fandom, because it's not just about Snape in that moment. That always speaks to everybody, not just the characters, but the readers as well. That always is Luna looking at Harry and saying, look at us. That's we're always gonna be here. And we're gonna see that carried on into the next couple of chapters, where we are sort of coming to this head where Harry has to make this choice. And it's always, your friends are always gonna be there for you. Whether that's physically, emotionally, mentally, in your heart, in your head, as spirits, as memories, as those moments where you hear something, or you smell something, or you see something, and suddenly it feels like someone's just taken your hand. That's what always is. It's not just Severus Snape, because I'm gonna get to him, and there are some real issues there. But we can learn from him in so many ways, and we can take always and use it ourselves. It's okay for always. It's also okay for not always. It's okay for things to end and for us to let them go. That's what the rest of the books have been explaining, particularly Deathly Hallows, has been this lesson in letting things go. But towards the end, we also have this reminder that it is okay to hold on to things that are truly important to you, especially if those things make you a better person, if they prompt you to grow and do good things, and maybe one day even become great. But again, like I said in a previous video, not all of us are going to be great. It is okay to be good. And that's what always means. It's okay to be good. I just, that lesson comes from one of the I don't like Severus Snape. Reach put it in a really good term, which is he's a douche nozzle. Like he's not a good person. So to have this lesson come from him, I think is like doubly important, because we can learn to emulate the best in people. Like, The Prince's Tale is sort of supposed to show you, and it really does show you, Snape's history with Lily. The thing is that history is not a positive one for the most part. I think there aren't really any clips that we don't have Snape and Lily either starting in a fight or dissolving into one. And Harry constantly notes this look of greed on Snape's face. Like, it is not a positive relationship. Because Snape is always looking at Lily greedily. One of the first things he does is physically hurt Petunia when he drops the branch on her. And that just continues. Like, no, it's not okay to sneak into your sister's room and read her mail. And your friend telling you, hey, we should do that because, you know, Muggles shouldn't, right? Privacy. You wouldn't want her doing that to you. So, is Petunia off scot-free in this? No. Her response to her sister is negative, but her response to her sister is also prompted by somebody who gives me the creeps. So I'm with Petunia on that one too, of he's not a good person. I don't like him. Like, he's greedy, he's possessive, he's aggressive to anybody that tries to sort of step in. Like, just a lot of words that he was saying, like when they're on the train and she says, like, I don't want to talk to you. Like, he goes to insult her sister and she's like, she's still my sister, dude. And he just turns around and goes, you better be in Slytherin. And that's the wording he uses, you better be in Slytherin. That's not a positive turn of phrase. That's not, I hope you're in Slytherin. I really feel that we could progress far in that house. Or, I think our friendship can really grow if we're in the same house, and I'm likely to be in Slytherin, so I hope you're there with me. No, that sounds vaguely like a threat. And it's just, like, this entire instance of just, oh my god. When Lily agrees that James is a snot rag, actually I think she says toe rag specifically, he stops listening to her. Even when she's saying, but your friends are evil, he hears James is a toe rag and goes. So a lot of people look at when Lily got called a mudblood, and some people say, like, she got angry and dropped their friendship over one word. And I don't think that's true, because again, every clip we're actually seeing, these two have a very volatile relationship. It's not all, like, flowers and sunshine. They barely get along, because they think on different wavelengths. So when Lily says, like, no, that was sort of the last straw, then that's what we have to recognize. It wasn't like they had a perfectly fine friendship and they were great friends, and then he said one word in his anger and she threw away that friendship. No, this has been happening progressively their entire friendship. So when she finally calls it quits, like, she's like, no. And that's sort of the other thing, is we can at least perceive that James matured somewhat. We know Remus did as well. Sirius, with his time in Azkaban, if he didn't have the chance to mature, if he had matured, again, like, in all likelihood, it would have backpedaled. Because for him, it sort of proved just all these negative things in his head. But for Lily to choose James, James had to have matured. I don't think Sirius did, and I think he was prevented from it. Severus definitely did not mature at all, and he didn't have anything to... Because we then go from this very greedy, jealous boy to, I'm literally willing to sell out the lives of another man who I hate, who saved my life, and a baby, if you'll just give me this woman for my own. That's not gonna happen. Okay, fine, I'll go. Switch the other side. Like, his entire switch as a spy, which I think is the key bit that a lot of people focus on, and Harry certainly focuses on. In the future, he's focused on the best of Snape, which is what Dumbledore calls it, is the best of Severus Snape. But there is a lot of really just shoddy things, like, you know, stepping over her husband's dead body, and ignoring her crying child to hold her dead body. That's a little weird. Breaking into the house and wrecking people's rooms in order to steal the end of a letter with Lily's love, and specifically rip a picture of her from her family so that he could have a picture of her, is really freaking creepy. And I'm a little concerned with just how little Severus has progressed. Because we know that Patronus's change. Because we've seen Tonks's Patronus has changed. So if that entire history of starting at really, okay, so we're at, he's 1. So we're going to go 10 years plus another 7. 17 years. Nothing has clicked with him is a little weird. It's concerning. Because you need to sort of take a step back when you look at Always, and you need to take a really serious look at it. Because your Always moments should be critical moments that are really important to you, critical people that are really important to you on a positive level. And again, I'm just not sure that the Lily-Snape relationship that we see, which oddly enough is the one that Snape is showing us, is that type of positive relationship. Because that relationship ended a good, 17 years, at least closer to 20. Yeah, 20 years before this point. Because that relationship effectively ended in 5th year for Lily and Snape. And we are now in Harry's 7th year. That's a big difference. And it ended really poorly. I don't think it was positive for either of them. Because, again, their descent into arguments I think also worked against Snape just as much it worked against Lily. And from what I've heard, Rowling has mentioned that the Sorting Hat made 7 mistakes, if I'm right, and one of them was placing Severus in Slytherin. So again, I think if we had had more wholesome conversations between these two that didn't dissolve into knockdown, drag-out fights, which is really the hint I'm getting here from the scenes we've seen, then I think it could have improved Snape's perception of the other houses just as much as it would have improved Lily's perception of the magical world. Because I don't think that was two-way communication. I think they were both hearing sort of what they wanted to hear and just weren't clicking. So we need to be willing to have our always moments, but we also need to be critical of those moments. And if they are toxic, then we need to not let them be always. If they're making us worse in a lot of ways, then we need to let them go. Because some people would look at this moment and say, well, his love of Lily, and really it's more of an obsession with Lily, did make Snape better in the end. Yes, it gave him the will to follow through on this path of being a double spy, which he fit into really well. But no, I don't think it made him a better person, because he was an asshole to Harry. He was an even worse one to Neville, and that's because he blamed Neville. Neville could have been the other boy who lived. So the fact that Voldemort chose Harry and not Neville got Lily killed. That's not a positive thing. Snape literally became Neville's Bogart. Snape's obsession with Lily led him to verbally and emotionally abuse children. That's in all ways that we should let go. That is definitely in all ways that we should let go. Like, this is supposed to be the moment that we're seeing Snape and seeing that he did do some good in this world. And I could see that, because he's gotten it to this point. He did end up showing mercy to both Draco and Dumbledore when he followed through with their plan. But past that, I think there are a lot of issues. I'm not going to get into the epilogue a lot, so I'm going to mention it now. A lot of people have issues with Harry's choice of naming his kids, particularly Albus Severus Potter, because of sort of all the issues I've just mentioned with Snape. But I think, and this can be said just as much for James Sirius Potter, that in naming his children as such is an attempt to show both his kids and the world at large that everybody has their good sides. And what we need to keep in mind is to emulate the best of all of these people and to learn from the worst of them and be better people than they were. Because just like we can look at Severus and say that his relationship with Lily was not healthy, we can point to Sirius and say, and he was abusive to Crutcher. None of these people are perfect. All of them are very deeply flawed. But we can also say that there was something good in it, and we can learn from that best part, and we can improve on the worst parts. So, yes, the names might be a little awkward, but I think I understand the choice there. Additionally, I will say 2 things, because there are 2 other names that people are sort of upset that were not used. 1, Remus. this gets a lot of people angry because of course you've got James Sirius and then you've got Albus Severus, and you're like, really? A lot of people there forget that Harry is godfather to Teddy Lupin. It would be, again, sort of like Harry and Ginny taking somebody else's legacy. Because you could say the same thing for Fred. But Harry and Ginny are well aware that George is planning to have kids, and George will probably want to name his child Fred. So to take that from him would be rude, if not a bigger issue within the family. So Harry names his kids after the people that meant a lot to him who don't have other people carrying that legacy on. Teddy is there. So to name one of his kids after Remus is to say, I think at the core of it that he was more important to me than he ever was to you. Which is wrong, because Teddy is Remus's son. And you better believe that Harry taught Teddy that. That I've named my kids after the other important members because you were already here. And you were just as important to me and the rest of this family as any of these kids are. But Remus has to be Teddy's legacy. And something that Teddy can hold on to for his own and not have subverted by anybody else. The other one I have is Regulus, because he's an additional question. Part of that is Harry never knew Regulus personally. He only knew it through Kreacher. And the other possibility, again, is the name Regulus really is for Kreacher now. That legacy is Kreacher's. Just like he gave the fake locket to Kreacher, maybe that name has to go through through the recognition of house elves as persons and magical beings. So that's another possibility. I love how I've skipped the ending 3 chapters and I've just jumped to the prologue. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to talk about the prologue a lot. So now, with the question of always, and the question of legacies, and the question of friendships and relationships, I think would have been the time to address the names. Names addressed! Okay! We're down literally to our last 3 chapters, and Harry's just had it shown to him that he has to willingly die. And he's also had it shown to him how many other people have died at this point in time. Tonks, and Remus, and Fred, and Lavender Brown, and we're gonna get a few more before Harry's out into the forest. So, I'm gonna keep reading. Let's finish this up, you guys. Onwards to death and glory, I guess.